All right, welcome to the last theoretical lesson for the year. You're going to hear a lot of those birds in the outside. Anyway, lesson 78, radio, radio 223 part timer, 6 out of 6. I'm saying that because we are at the end. Yes, man, we made it. Both me and you. Cullen and Nash, next level radio. The chapter is in chapter 9. We're going to just close that off from page 351 all the way to 367. You're going to see that a lot of the slides are, I would say, a bit of revision, kind of looking back at some of the aspects of airtime that we have looked at in some of the past lessons. But through those, we're just going to just quickly run through, and with the rest, we'll just talk in detail. I'm going to record this in 2 parts, and then what I'm also going to do, just for quote unquote added value for for the rest of the lessons, is I'm going to do like a couple of examples. I say probably a sample example of perhaps one or two of the questions within the assignment itself. So do have a look at those upcoming videos. And again, I have had already a one-on-one meetings with some of you, and I'll have the rest with you as per your schedule, because I know television was asking you to come in on campus this past weekend. All right. Okay, so let us get into the last lesson and let's wrap this year up. Okay, integrated campaign. So again, let's just revise where we are in terms of airtime. We've looked at digital campaigns, we've looked at paid media, earned media. We've looked at how we do power spots and how we looked at sponsorships and competitions and activations and just the thought process behind that, all the way through the execution, as we've spoken about, also all the moving parts within different departments, how they interact with one another, what's important to a client, how to interact with a client as well, how to maybe create a sale from maybe perhaps nothing or via a hot lead, a recommendation or whatever it may be, right? So we are right here at integrated campaigns, and you can kind of almost understand that this is where we integrate different parts or aspects of what we have as a medium, right? And what we have at our disposal. So, as obviously the on air medium doesn't only exist anymore, we exist in the digital space, and we can see where we can say, okay, great, this is where, you know, um, we can look at online versus on the ground stuff that we do. All right. So what are we looking at? Integrated radio campaigns, advertising campaigns that utilize more than just on a product. So we did speak about power spots, that kind of like situation where one DJ is given the I would say they're given the responsibility of almost personalizing their experience with a particular brand, kind of pitching that forward and obviously acting almost like an influencer, but because we have a lot of actual influence because of the reach that we have, but also we created their relationship and the loyalty with our listeners. They know we are selling them something, but because we're giving it a personal experience, we've taken on this particular product, we've experienced this service, and so we're now going to give it a massive punt, which is obviously paid for. It does cost a lot more money uh, for these power spots to occur, and we also said that we'd like to do it, not subtly. I said subtle is the best thing. We don't want to shove it down their throats because it's just it's almost taking for me. It's really taking advantage of that relationship. And once you start to make it clinical between you and your listener, they're going to just be like, oh, this now they're basically disrespecting us and again taking advantage of us. So we included subtly within the execution of certain DJs that we do select that are viable candidates. In other words, they do match the brand and the brand's identity that we are trying to sell, the ethos, whatever it is, their vision, mission statement. And they're good representatives. They you can believe them that they actually do eat Kit Kat or they do have a Burger King, a binge every week or whatever it is. I don't know, right? There are many different options, and again, we can also use. We look at a lot of presenters that are quite versatile as well. We look at obviously their reputation, especially not necessarily only their influence. I'm saying in terms of their reach and stuff, but we're looking at again that reputable, reputation that does exist. Can people respect them? Do they respect them? Are they credible? And do people believe them at the end of the day? Right. Okay. So, this is nothing new. We've been seeing many big stars, I'm saying internationally and I suppose locally to a large extent, but predominantly internationally, getting behind certain brands. So, Pepsi, as being a quote unquote competitor for Coke, has always has really tried their best at bringing in the biggest names in the entertainment industry, people like Missy Elliott, Madonna, and a whole range more. But I'm telling you, these are two beasts. These are beasts that they brought in to actually, get behind the Pepsi brand to say, well, we are Pepsi drinkers, supporters, whatever it is, and whatever it may be, to lift the sales of Pepsi. Like I say, due to popular belief, or should I say, like I said, due to popular belief, but against popular belief, Pepsi actually does really well, Again, no, not obviously as well as Coke, but it doesn't at all, seem subservient to them. Pepsi does really well, and again, I would think it's because they do pull out all the stops because they know they against a legacy brand that's been around just forever, and is more of a lifestyle choice and a narrative, which is something that Pepsi hasn't been able to accomplish. All right. Integrated radio campaigns are designed to carefully manage campaign messaging across multiple types of media, include, including, well, there's TV, there's magazines, whatever it is. It was a great time. Again, it's just because it's a nostalgic thing for me. When we'd go to the movies and you would see again 5FM, Metro, whatever it is, and they would have these advertisements of they would run obviously for like 30 seconds or whatever it may be, along a advertisement, which normally kills you before the movie. You just wanted to start, right? But they were cool. I mean, it was great. You would see it on TV too. The obviously the replica of that particular advert that was constructed. And also, for me, it showed that like this brand has got, you're a kid. I mean, they got money to spend. They're obviously doing it where other radio stations are not doing it, and so for me that was class. I liked it. It was great. They also had like catchy jingles. And then I say jingles, so they would relate themselves to, paid like a paid track from a popular artist or something that would obviously tell a story. It was great. I loved it. So again, kind of looking at those little areas where your audience is at. Again, if you watch the rugby, or if you watch soccer or cricket or whatever it is, we often see, a lot of radio stations can also sponsor the teams, and say, like we're putting our name behind this particular local, like it's normally a regional team, right? Where we get that type of kind of branding. And again, just speaking from a line for 7 days, like we would sponsor the Lions. I think it was the Lions, right? For quite a long time. It is really good because you're getting into the lifestyle space of this particular listener. They're loving it. They love you, and they continue with the loyalty because you are brainwashing them, but in the best way possible. Developing an integrated radio campaign is based in developing a different communication activities. So this is to deliver and coordinate consistent messaging to the audience and achieve the goals that the advertiser has set. That comes from your books, which I think you can understand. I mean, that's quite straightforward, and that's almost a given. I mean, if I had to tell you on the onset, like you're working with a sales team or PR team or whatever it is, what do you want to do? You want to deliver something that tells a story, tells a story that makes sense. One, obviously, it's consistent, it's coordinated, it tells the same story in different ways. So, in other words, the brand message and identity must be what we carve into our audience's experience and their intake, their processing, their congestion. Is it congestion? No. What do we do when we swallow and we? Well, I don't know. When you eat something, I don't know. Digestion. There we go. I'm getting my gestions wrong. go anyway. Yeah. So to be able to digest the message that we are telling them is very important. The figure on the following slide, right here, maps out the number of different platforms of touch points that the consumer can actually use with different brands. I'm saying, or with their brand, should I say? So, for example, you'll see there like YouTube, email, there's X, there's let's say that looks like a computer for me, right? Okay, so that would be like direct messaging, right? So like an SMS, uh, music. Well, that's no, that's messaging right there. That's a SMS. I know what that is. That looks like a little phone, whatever it is. Anyway, that's a phone definitely over there, or phone or tablet, whatever it is. Likes obviously on social media, whatever it may be on the cloud platforms, whichever it is that we want to Wi-Fi gaming, whatever it is. And whichever way we're using, this looks like I suppose, a video, that's how I would interpret that. Your friend base, so your community in terms of obviously online and stuff. A search algorithm, so search engine optimization, very important there. And again, I'm just taking these random guesses. I think I'm quite accurate, right? What type of links, like I say, internal links and external links that we might actually use, say URL links, wherever we might do embedded content, whatever it may be, right? Okay, start content, right? Okay, so we can start certain things, as you know, and also store and save, should I say? That's definitely email. I think I've said that already. I don't think I have to go through every single one. That one looks like, for me, like a that looks like a pot, but I'm definitely wrong in there. Okay, anyway, okay, great. All right, anyway, you get the point, right? It's important to bear in mind that not everyone, or not every radio station, should I say, not every advertising client will have access to all these particular touch points, and also their audiences might not be that's not where their strong suit is. So, for example, they might find a lot of email communications through their Mailchimp that they're using to, communicate great, obviously like greatly constructed, weekly mails, whatever it is. And we find that obviously that particular audience's culture has a much better processing, or I'd say processing intake via what happens in terms of the subscription mail that comes through. That looks like kind of a tablet to me now. Anyway, or they might be YouTube viewers, or maybe X users, or Instagram, or whatever it is, or TikTok, right? They might behave, they might be streaming people. I'm saying so in terms of the cloud. We are strictly online. I would interpret that it's pretty odd to kind of think of a cloud itself and how that might actually be integrated into, I'm saying a radio station itself. But we need to obviously understand where they live and where they breathe, digitally, right? Okay, in terms of that, but you also have your home there, routed Wi-Fi, whatever it may be, right? Yeah. Um, okay, it is, however, important that when radio stations design integrated campaigns, that they consider all of the touch points that they actually do have then access to. Yeah, it seems like kind of a repeat. Not have access. Yeah. Okay. Right, and then watch which ones we do actually have, and then our focus should be there. Every radio station has numerous digital platforms available to them. Ideally, you should have all of them that you are active on, only because your audience, yes, they might prefer one to the other, or two to, or three, or two to three, maybe. I suppose they would predominantly be more active on, but because you have other parts of your, I say, your listener base, or your listenership and demographics that do use other, again, platforms, and again digital media, that you should actually belong everywhere. But also, I've said this before, but it's a good point to remember. It's weird if the radio station doesn't have like a TikTok account, doesn't have a LinkedIn profile, or doesn't have a Facebook business account, likewise X or Instagram, or right. Definitely a WhatsApp, like a WhatsApp line that we know that we can always, we know that listeners can always just get in contact with us. at any one point during shows, or just want to say hi or want to ask questions. It doesn't really matter, right? They can just send it through. Right. All of these elements provide ways in which the station can increase the revenue it generates of the campaign because we can charge. We've seen in previous examples how expensive certain campaigns can actually be when we include the digital aspect of that or the digital strategy and the marketing plan that we want to include. You're going to see those examples come up a bit later in the lesson itself. Just to kind of refresh that as well. Originally, digital and activation opportunities were considered alternative streams of revenue, but as digital media requires an increasingly large portion of advertising budgets, these have become integral to the execution of radio campaigns, right? So, yes, we can obviously go on quote unquote, I'm going to say digital word of mouth, right? So, you can post stuff on your actual page, right? Okay. And you might have like tens of thousands of followers, that's right, but ideally, what you should be looking at is budgeted campaigns that are you're paying for, that you run for particular activations. Again, right now the hot FM is running that Teddython, or they ran that Teddython. It became kept coming up as a sponsored ad, obviously on my feed because one of my interests is radio, right? So and they would use that particular that little um and paid for advertisement, right, to change kind of that content and update it, but still obviously have that paid for a certain amount of time, and then obviously to let us know what the actual outcome was, which I think was 2 million that they raised, for the Teddython, which is pretty good. I mean, that's a lot of money, right? Um, so yeah. Anyway, and that's again just from listeners who wanted to, just contribute to that. And obviously, we had some sponsors in there, some bigger names at dealerships or whatever it may be. I don't know, right? Companies that lend themselves to that. Most South African radio stations estimate the share of radio advertising spend in the integrated and non-traditional space. And that's around 40%. Some claim that this number is closer to 50%. It seems realistic that we don't want to let go of what's happening in terms of what we want to you want to advertise on air, because that is where your listener is at. Yes, they are on digital platforms, but they are um, we understand their behavior on there, but it is if we have to compare in comparison to the actual medium, like the radio station medium, where we shouldn't lose focus from, and we shouldn't lose detachment of our listeners where they are, if not without that brand. I'm saying that actual medium, the radio station itself, like nothing else exists. So it would be wise to not lose focus and think that you have to be more digitally exposed than terrestrially exposed, right? Excuse me. This means that up to half of all money spent on radio stations is not being spent on generic spot schedules. It's true, right? Okay, it's becoming obviously less and less of an option. They'd like something a little bit more customized, right? But it's not for, I mean, it's not for everyone, right? That's what it says there. Up to half of all money that is spent on radio stations is not exactly that kind of like a prim and proper, uh, beautifully produced advert that you hear for 30 seconds, right? But a classic never fails, right? So this represents a major shift from 20 to 25-year-old people, when a generic radio campaign was believed to be the only way to use the medium effectively. And that was quite a long time ago. So, even from back then, we started doing this shift 4 years ago, right? No surprise, of course, with those stats as well that do come up, right? So the days where you could shout one generic message at 100,000 or at hundreds of thousands of people and listeners, often with falsely differing interests and psychographic, which is what a lot of stations are actually formatted according. We are, like, for example, I work for a psychographic. I'm saying our demographic is psychographic, and it's not demographic, so it's not based on race or particularly age. I would say sometimes, definitely not necessarily your income. but more about how you think and how you approach the world, right? So psychographic profiles weren't really a massive thing that we'd focus on before, but definitely now. And I'm saying this year, like for a long time, the world has been looking at psychographics as a very important way to saying how has our listenership shifted over, right? And what is a way forward for us? What we should we focus on more? Advertisers still need to meet these basic metrics, but they have become increasingly willing to sacrifice a wide reaching advert for more meaningful metrics such as engagements and interactions, right? Okay. So whether those engagements and interactions happen, obviously those are related to terms that you would find in a digital space, but we would like to engage and interact on air as well, right? Okay. Radio as an intimate medium works on two levels. The first level is the relationship between the listener and the station, obviously brand, but the second is with the listener and the presenter, right? Which is why we can say, yes, sure, we would go for those kind of aspects like a power spot and there's, kind of like, well, I'm going to be a brand ambassador. I'm going to go behind this. I'm going to, endorse this product, whatever it may be, right? Presenters have become more central to attracting to and retaining listeners. This is heightened by the explosion of the use of influencers, right? Again, just to remind you once again, so people within our industry and our craft, I'm saying not only radio, but within the creative craft industries are now called content strategists. So anyone can be an influencer, right? But not anyone can be a content strategist. We are. And yay, finally, right? Okay. Right, integrated radio campaigns where a presenter aligns himself with the brand, talks about the brand on air, engages further with the brand through social media, live activations, is really attractive to the advertisers because once again, you're a brand ambassador, at that, and again, an endorser of a product, right? It enables them to secure additional integrated value for their campaign more effectively than buying up separate media campaigns and trying to connect them and connect those dots. The ability for the presenters to connect with listeners 24/7 has contributed obviously hugely to making this very attractive and almost mandatory in a way. When someone comes to you as a client and says, well, if there isn't a digital strategy that's integrated in the sales pitch or this package, then where is it? Is what they'll say. Like, okay, that doesn't make any sense. So you won't even approach a client to be like, oh, would you like just a couple of live reads or a couple of spots on air, right? They'll be like, we'd like you also to, I mean, if you're going to buy more than just maybe 5 or 6 or 7 placed ads, right? We'd like you to integrate this into a package. Right. So what marketer would not want to extend listener engagement with their brand across the day, the week, or the year? These are always on campaigns, right? So this is a great way also to sell for across the year as well. And obviously with that kind of like terms and conditions or the fine print where we say, yeah, we can obviously adapt the campaign according to what it is that you want to promote throughout the year. But take out a contract with us. Um, and let's do that kind of a like customer retention thing, at the end of the day. South African stations are very flexible regarding how they allow brands to engage with their audience. So, yes, you're going to say to me, but Chris, I mean, there's so many people that advertise on a station. Not all of them are being endorsed on like social media. It's true because, again, like I say, not a lot can actually afford it, right? That kind of massive package. They might not see maybe the value in it right now. They'd rather look at, let's say, their um, owned media, right? And the way that owned media can actually be, I would say, exploited in any way, right? And also, obviously, like, strategically paying for the correct amount of ads on air, right? Again, that makes sense, perfect sense. They still will get a return on investment, right? But it's just more, it is going to be a little bit more clinical. I'm saying that return on investment we've seen massive margins actually that do come through in terms of being able to equate that ROI separately. So I would look at it, in terms of a short term, long term. but also in terms of like what exactly we can now offer them. It's not just feet in their store. We've said this before already. Like we want subscriptions to them. We want them to download apps. We want them to, take part in specials, whatever it may be. Right? Okay. Uh, there's my alarm. So I've got class in just a moment. So I'm going to do just the two more slides. All right. Most stations allow brands to play a central role in prime time live content, right? Okay. We again more enticing, more money, right? Enticing, more money. And again, prime time live content means that you're going to get more than just that 30 seconds. You're getting get a really like an interactive, um, immersive experience almost that you can sell to your clients and obviously sell to the listener, right? Excuse me, does the lack of focus on fiercely protecting content make for a worse listening experience? I don't think so, right? I mean, that's, you know, I don't think, no, not think, I don't, I know so, right? I believe that, again, if we make things more rich and more entertaining, that's the end of the day. Like, infotainment is it's our main objective. Servicing the community is our main objective. Making money is our main objective. All these things are what we can garner or garner. Yeah, I think it's garner, right? It's garner. So garner, so we can definitely garner um from this fierce approach to advertising, not protecting content. No, so protecting content um is I mean, it's debatable at the end of the day. So because we can also, again, we are masters of being able to just so okay, just we sit down with the client, we want we would rather obviously have money coming in. There's always place for content. I'm saying original show content, right? Protecting content in terms of selling out. That's for me. I'm like, no, that's just not it. And a lot of stations do sell out, and that's the thing, and that's fine. I'm not trying to be liberal here, but the truth of the matter is like that cheapens the entire experience, and people really, really don't appreciate that, right? Again, if we look at integrated campaigns, I'm just going to leave it after this one. I'll pause there. For a poor listen, does it mean for that will result in a poor listening experience? No, I don't think so at all. Again, integrated campaigns means there's like synergy across where we are. So what you hear on air is what you see online or whatever it may be, right? And so we have obviously again synergy within the brand itself. So it makes sense that if I want more information, I've missed it, I've listened to it on air, I can always go to the socials, see some more information there, an entry mechanism there. Again, a subscription, download, whatever it may be, right? And like most things in creative environments, this depends entirely on the quality of the content around the campaign which it is built. Again, the whole sound factor, but also that cheap thing. I mean, even down to the design, man. It is just like why, even if you're doing, like I've seen this, and it's. I mean, I'm kind of like pausing and stumbling because I'm busy rubbing my forehead. Yeah, and I'm not being judgy, but the thing is, I don't understand how a digital department will, let's say, post really badly. There's no effort actually put into the post that actually will post on a normal day, like in terms of being able to create something that's quite generic, but still promotes like the mission statement of the station, whatever it may be, and it's just badly designed or whatever. But as soon as a client comes in, now that digital department goes, oh, we're going to put a lot of effort because now someone's quote unquote watching us, the client. That doesn't make any sense. So that is something that really just there must be again just consistency around that and saying again, once again, if I'm doing something, it's work wise, if everything, if it's small, if it's big, if it's anything like quality, quality, quality is what we actually are looking for. There's pride in your work, man. A campaign that is conceptualized and implemented by somebody who does not understand what listeners are looking for almost will certainly, excuse me, fail. We hear these campaigns all the time with clients or the agencies insist that listeners answer boring product related questions or that presenters must endorse a service that doesn't match the personal. and organic choices of that particular presenter, even the personal organic choice of that listener. And so kind of that's lost in translation. I'm gonna stop it there for part one. I've got some tasks to just attend to, and I'll come back with part two.